Hey there everyone, welcome to FJX 2000 Productions and another episode of Let's FJ. In today's episode, I wanted to talk about something that seems to come up whenever I talk to anyone about the FJ Cruiser. Every time I mention my affinity for FJs and off-roading, people generally know that the FJ was discontinued here in North America in 2014. So the natural response to that is why? Why was it discontinued? To be honest, there is no 100% clear answer to this question, but it certainly wasn't just one specific cause. But after being in the FJ community for over 10 years and getting to see how everything played out, I think I have the most comprehensive list of reasons why Toyota pulled the plug on the FJ. I will cover these reasons in today's video, but be sure to comment below and share your own thoughts and opinions, whether you think I left something out or if you agree. I always love hearing from my audience, and if you like today's video, please like and subscribe. My recent analytics show that approximately only 10% of my viewers are subscribed, so please consider doing so if you enjoy FJ Cruiser specific content and want more videos like this. Anyways, let's get started. To begin, the major reasons any type of vehicle is generally discontinued include a car's design going out of style, future automaker plans that either replace or refresh a specific model, a shifting focus towards a different long-term goal like better fuel mileage, more space, safer options, etc., a change in government regulations for better mileage or emissions standards, or simply even too low of sales to justify keeping a model around. And unfortunately, the FJ Cruiser had to endure many of these typical pressures, leading to it eventually meeting the chopping block for Toyota's North American lineup. The FJ Cruiser was initially released in early 2006 as the 2007 model year, and throughout 06 and 07, the FJ Cruiser's sales exceeded Toyota's expectations, with over 56,000 being sold in 2006 and just over 55,000 in 2007. Then came the Great Recession, which began in late 2007 and lasted until mid-2009. During this time, the US experienced the most severe economic recession it had seen since the Great Depression of the 1930s. Unemployment rates soared, education and student debt was impacted, family dynamics and overall health were affected, and even major companies like General Motors and Chrysler filed for bankruptcy. The Great Recession was no joke, and people had to get by whatever means necessary. With the FJ being more of a recreational vehicle than a logical commuter or family car, it would make sense that it was not most people's go-to choice during the recession. In 2008, less than 29,000 units were sold, or pretty much half of the previous year's sales, and by 2009, less than 12,000 were sold. Over the next 5 years, the sales averaged around 13,000 units per year, which was disappointing given the FJ's initial wave of popularity. It is hard to deny just how big of an impact the Great Recession had on how the FJ did in the market, and it certainly influenced Toyota to reconsider having the vehicle in their lineup. Another impact during the Great Recession was a spike in fuel prices, as seen in these graphs. The price of gasoline was hitting all-time highs, and with the FJ obviously being built like a brick on wheels, it was not designed for miles per gallon, and rather for off-roading and miles per gallon. At the end of the day though, it can still be painful at the pump, with the fuel mileage for 07 to 09 FJs ranging from 15 to 19 miles per gallon, with it only going down from there as modifications are added. In 2010, the FJ received a more fuel-efficient engine, but it only increased the fuel economy by 1 mile per gallon. So with more logical choices in the market during such difficult financial times, it makes sense in this regard that sales would diminish. Aside from the recession, another thing the FJ Cruiser had going against it from day one was its design and the narrow market it was appealing to. For the Toyota off-road community, the FJ was exactly what everyone had been dreaming of, a modern off-roader, so it was met with open arms. As can be seen from those 2006 to 2007 sales, they were flying off the dealership lots. However, the FJ Cruiser is a pretty niche vehicle, having distinctive retro styling to emulate the classic Toyota Land Cruiser FJ40, from which the FJ Cruiser draws much of its design DNA. Due to this, it didn't exactly fit in with the rest of the typical auto offerings, which had its drawbacks. It didn't compare to the more modern cars around it, both when it came to the exterior styling, but also, importantly, with its minimalistic interior. For the type of vehicle the FJ is, the simplistic interior without more modern gadgets and accessories is exactly what you would want. But for the typical consumer, the lack of power seats, modern head unit with radio, GPS, etc., and other creature comforts was not what they were looking for. The FJ does admittedly have some quirks that take some getting used to, like the wide C-pillars that create large blind spots, and the suicide doors that make it difficult and awkward for passengers to access the smaller than comfortable rear seats. Just more things that don't appeal to the typical car owner. It wouldn't be until 2009 that the backup camera was added, and even then, it was small, so reversing in the FJ always feels a bit risky. It generally wasn't the car your average Joe would be driving off the lot due to its unique nature. But for people who wanted Toyota dependability in the form of a rugged 4x4, this was the ticket. But seeing as off-roaders are not the target demographic by manufacturers, it makes sense that they would want to aim their selection at the average consumer, which the FJ just did not fit. Another thing that probably influenced Toyota's decision to cut the FJ from the lineup is its similarity to other vehicles they also offered, notably the 4Runner and Tacoma, which both saw much better sales than the FJ. Even today, if you go to the Toyota USA website and look for the FJ Cruiser, you are met with a page explaining that the FJ has been discontinued, but to consider looking at the 4Runner instead. Under the 4Runner's standard SUV appearance, you have a frame, suspension, and drivetrain setup that is incredibly similar to, if not interchangeable with, the FJ. Due to these similarities, it is practically like Toyota had two of the same vehicle from a mechanical perspective. With the 4Runner appealing to a wider audience, if Toyota had to pick between which of the two to let go, it logically had to be the FJ. But that doesn't mean the FJ didn't leave its impact on the future of Toyota's lineup. If you want to learn more about that, be sure to check out this video. I did all about that topic. A link will be in the description below. Ultimately, the FJ suffered from being caught in the perfect storm of being released at the wrong time and then again being discontinued at the wrong time. With the lower than expected sales, the challenging market, and everything mentioned up to this point, it all culminated in the decision Toyota made to let the FJ Cruiser go. But, as we see in today's market, should the FJ had stuck around, I think we would have certainly seen an increase in sales, as the interest in adventure, recreational, and off-road vehicles is currently booming. Even looking at the sales of the 4Runner, they tanked during the recession and plateaued for a few years after, but later grew to approximately 130,000 units a year for the past 5 years. More evidence that perhaps Toyota pulled the plug on the FJ too early. Interest in building overland-style rigs that people can take out and enjoy on weekends or weeks at a time is at an all-time high, and Toyota vehicles like the 4Runner and Tacoma are prime targets for this increased interest. But so is the FJ, hence why we see the used FJ Cruiser market absolutely exploding, with absurdly high prices being asked even for early year FJs with high mileage. I doubt the FJ would ever pull sales figures as well as it did back in 2006 and 2007 if it were hypothetically re-released today, but it would certainly have a bigger audience than it did, and people would welcome it with open arms. One of the fascinating things about the FJ is that I don't believe Toyota stopped producing them as a result of not enough being sold. The FJ Cruiser is currently still offered in select markets around the world, such as the Philippines, South Africa, and the UAE, and they are only producing a small quantity of each per year for those markets. For example, in 2020, just over 200 new FJs were sold in the Philippines, which is a surprisingly low number, and I can't imagine that even the cumulative FJ sales worldwide are even close to how well it was selling in the US, even in the later years. So with such small numbers being produced, why continue making the FJ at all? The FJ continued being sold in Australia and Japan until 2017, so especially after cutting it from those two markets, why continue to make them? This is something I actually have no answer for, and it's a huge mystery to us FJ enthusiasts. Ever since the FJ was discontinued in the US, devoted fans have begged for Toyota to bring it back, especially since the FJ is still produced on Toyota's assembly lines. It would seem relatively easy to start producing more and to once again ship them to the markets that once offered them. And with how popular the off-road segment in the US is right now, with almost every manufacturer offering some sort of off-roader, the last few years have seemed like the perfect opportunity for Toyota to do so. But the truth is, we may never know the true reason for the FJ's discontinuation, so we can only hope to someday see a legitimate successor or even a slight refresh and re-release of the FJ for the markets that once had it, like here in the US. And that's all I have for today's video, so if you think there are other contributing factors to the FJ's discontinuation, please mention them in the comments below. But hopefully I was able to answer the question clearly for you all, for why the FJ Cruiser was discontinued. If you've happened to see images of the compact cruiser EV floating around, don't worry, this is not the new FJ. If you want to learn more about that, be sure to check out my last video all about it. And if you liked today's video, again, please consider liking and subscribing. I appreciate all of you for your support and hope to keep bringing you more FJ Cruiser related content. So until next time, take care.